We are in Daleville, the gateway to Fort Rucker. So much respect for this location, but a lot of weird mystery surrounds it as well. Tons of haunted paranormal stories around this area and some behemoth creatures lurking in the shadows. We're here for the DeepSouth Comi-Con. I am so excited to meet some friendly faces and see how strange we can get. I'm at the Webb paranormal table, and they are the host of this DeepSouth Comi-Con. Here's my awesome media badge, and we're having an incredible day. There's Stan, Teresa, and the rest of the team. Geek Haven, the main sponsor of this event. Thank you so much, guys. Again, the famous ghost biker. Good old Jeremy. The Fox Paranormal team, they had some crazy stuff. Sonya Thompson from The Walking Dead, she was also in a Bigfoot movie. Having a good day, brother? The life, yes sir. Oh, such a magical time, man. Got the robotics right next to the magical soap. The best smell of the store. Got Jared, the yard sale artist. Cujo, Alien, Xenomorph, Link, Gollum. What? So cool. 3-minute sketch cards. Oh yes, it's free. Venom. Oh man, that is cool. Then my buddy that I'm going to interview tomorrow, he's from Cleveland and has some super rare magazines and comic books. This one is worth almost $20,000. The first appearance of Mickey Mouse too. My cosplay buddies right here. Yes, Ash is holding it down. And the Quest Master. Very, very cool. Yes, the Call of Cthulhu. Man, you are the man. Dapper down. Such a cool day. Can't wait till tomorrow.
Has to have a legal right to someone. That is why the Roman Catholics call an exorcism the right of exorcism. Because you're breaking the legal right that a demon has to a person. So in other words, a demon can't just see Michael here walking down the road and say, I want to possess him. It does not work that way. In fact, a demon cannot do anything against someone's free will. Okay? You have to, in fact, invite a demon into your life. Now, with that being said, it's a lot easier than one would think. So let's get into a little bit of how we can unintentionally invite a demon into our lives. So how many of you guys, when you go on paranormal investigations, you do EVP sessions or spirit box sessions or so on, maybe some of you play with Ouija boards, okay? So let me get this in. This is very important to understand. Anytime you connect with the dead, you are opening yourself up to possibly having a demonic attachment. Okay? So, a demon has to be invited in. Okay? So, when we do paranormal investigations, and look, so let's think of it this way. And this is one of the things that drives me nuts. Have any of you guys ever done an EVP session or spirit box session in your own home?
Yes.
Okay. That is very, very dangerous. Okay? The number one thing you have to remember is there is no rule that says that spirits have to be honest with us, okay? You never truly know what you are communicating with. Look, regardless of what Hollywood says, demons are not going to present themselves as something negative or evil. In fact, they're going to present themselves as something lovable or likable. That way you are going to be more prone to inviting them in, okay? So, what do you mean by inviting the spirit in? Anytime you get personal with a spirit, you are opening yourself up. You are inviting them in, okay? Let's use mythology throughout history. Let's use vampires for an example. The mythology of vampires is what? One of the main things that most every vampire movie or show you've ever seen is what? You have to invite them into your home. Yep. That stems from demonic activity. Okay? You have to invite them into your home. Now, here comes the part that gets dangerous. When you do an EVP session or spirit box session in your home, that is so dangerous because your home is your sanctuary. That is the place that you feel safe at. So you are more likely to let your guard down during an EVP session in your home than you would doing an investigation, right? Because in investigation, what are you doing? You're communicating to a spirit, but you're doing it on your client's behalf, usually. Okay? At least in my case. So that keeps me from asking personal questions to the spirit that I'm communicating with about myself. Okay? So I'm not allowing them in. Okay? So another misconception that a lot of people have is what we call, or people call attachments, right? I hear it all the time on Facebook. Oh, I went to a paranormal place and now I have an attachment. Spirit followed me home. All right? So, I hate to break the news to you people, but earthbound spirits, what we call earthbound spirits, they haunt locations. They don't haunt homes. Okay, let's use cemetery for an example. A lot of people go to cemeteries to do paranormal investigations, right? So, why would I, being a dead person, stay at a cemetery where my body is that I absolutely have no connection with anymore? Okay? I have no connection with that body anymore. So why am I going to hang around the cemetery? I'm not. I'm going to hang around a place or a location that I was familiar with when I was alive. Right? Makes sense, don't it? However, demons on the other hand, they love hanging around cemeteries. In fact, think about it. You have loved ones that go to cemeteries. They're emotionally, spiritually, and physically weak, seeing their loved ones that passed on. So demons stick around and haunt those locations, waiting for people to come along that's vulnerable, that may not intentionally invite them in, you see. So now, guess what? A demon has that legal right to a person. So now let's talk about what happens when someone invites a demonic entity into their home. So the very first stage is called an infestation, which means that now we have invited the entity into our home. The demon has a legal right. But remember, demons are the opposite of earthbound spirits. They don't want to haunt locations. They want to possess or inhabit someone. Okay. So have you ever walked into a building and it's like you're walking through water? The air is so thick that it's just like it's pushing against you as you walk in. The smell of sulfur, the smell of rotting eggs. All right, the feeling of pure rage, pure anger. That's the best way that I can describe what evil would feel like. Yes, sir.
What's the hardest, demon, or are there different types of demons?
Well, there are different types of demons. So, so when we talk about angels, okay, you have the seraphim, the cherubim, the dominions, the thrones, the archangels. There's different levels or orders of angels, okay? So we have to remember demons are fallen angels, okay? So you have seraphim, cherubim, so different types. So the best way that I know how to put it is think of a military structure, okay? You have generals, you have colonels, you have captains, you have sergeants, you have all of these. So you have some demons that are generals. They're way at the top, all right? They are the ones that's giving the orders down to the foot soldiers, which are the demons that have the jobs of, talking to someone's ear, perversion, all of these different things, the seven deadly sins or so on. But you have higher ranking demons that are calling the shots. Now, usually possession for the most part are not really going to be your foot soldiers. They're going to be more like what I would call sergeants. In other words, they're somewhere in the middle of the pack. Make sense? All right. Well, yes, sir.
What are you most proud of from your TV show?
So, speaking of TV shows, Goes to Morgan City, one of the things that I was proud of the most is just being able to experience it. I would have to say the town of Morgan City, man, they were great. So nobody knew what we were doing really when we were there. But, a lot of people, they seen us going around with cameras and stuff, so they knew something was up. And, They were great, man. They treated us great. And the experience to be able to work with Ben Hansen, which is a magnificent human being, gentle giant. So look, I'm 6 foot tall. Ben's like 6'8". I come to like his shoulders. So that was great. And not only that, being able to experience working with a team. But if I have to say, the most greatest moment of my life was episode 3, the Idlewild, when we saw the full body apparition. Let me tell you something. I hear a lot of people say that paranormal shows are fake, this, that, and the other, they're not real. I beg to differ, because I'm going to tell you right now, if that was not a genuine reaction when we all saw that, then I deserve an Emmy Award. Okay? So let me tell you a little story of how this happened. So if you work with a production crew, you know they have to. We film for 12 hours a day. They have to take a break for lunch. So Ben and Sarah was inside the Idlewild plantation doing EVP sessions. Okay? And Ben, you have to know how he is. So they called lunch. Everybody went to lunch on the complete opposite side of the property. So altogether the property is probably about 3 acres. So we're all the way on the other side. Everybody knows where everybody is. We're all sitting there eating. Well, Ben decided to go to the ghost coach, which I named, by the way, and go over the EVPs that they just went over. Well, the screen for the monitors is right there. So he happened to capture it out of the corner of his eye. So all I can tell you is we're all sitting there eating and stuff, and we hear Ben on the radio hollering, "Get the cameras, get over here now." We don't know whether the man done hurt himself or what. I'm thinking we're about to have to lay an airhead, you know? I mean, he was like hollered. So we all come running across there, and then that's where the camera picks it up. Right there, you see him say, "Y'all are not going to believe this." And believe me, when I tell y'all it takes a lot to get Ben excited like that, the man was just excited. And they played it, and the cameras actually captured it at that moment, the first time that we saw it. And I have to say, that is one of the greatest evidence-wise thing that has ever happened to me. TV, off of TV, personal life, or whatever. And the fact that we captured that on a television show where time is at stake. I mean, you're only on the edit location for maybe 6 hours. The fact that we caught that, and that is so undeniable. You can see straight through it, and it just blows past. And if you've ever seen Ben, he also, look, Ben tried for 3 days to debunk that, because that's just how he is. Again, he was an ex-FBI, so he tries to debunk everything. He spent 3 days going over that footage to see if he can debunk it, and still to this day he never has. So, but also, October 21st of this year, okay, there will be a paranormal show coming out on Netflix called 28 Days Haunted. Okay, you want to see raw TV show? Look, this is as real as it gets. So what they done was they locked 3 teams in 3 different locations for 28 days. All right, there was no film crew, no nothing. They had like stationary cameras all in the house, kind of like Big Brother. We've never seen producers. We were literally locked in this house for 28 days. No cell phone, no TV, no nothing. Just you and your thoughts. So it's based off of Ed and Lorraine Warren's theory with the Amityville Horror. The Lutz family spent 28 days in the house before they ran out in the Amityville Horror House. So that's kind of what it's based on. And let me tell y'all guys, being a demonologist, the reason I wanted to do it was because I wanted to see what it was like to be in the client's shoes, the things that they go through. You know, as an investigator or a demonologist, you know, we come and we spend a little bit of time at home and we leave. But they're stuck there. So I wanted to feel it from that perspective. So I was in an extremely negative environment for 28 days. And I started getting oppressed. You know, we talked about oppression earlier. It happened to me at this location. I knew what was happening. I knew I was being oppressed. But I couldn't separate myself from it. I couldn't stop it because I could not leave the location. So it really messed with my mind. And I knew there was going to be a showdown at the end between me and the entity that was there. I just didn't know if I could spiritually strong enough to be able to do it. And you'll see all of that unfold in the show. It really challenged me. That was, I have to say, that was probably the roughest 28 days of my life.
Quite some time now. And eventually, horror movies, the horror genre eventually crossed over to the to the realm of video games. And in most survival horror games, you're basically playing as this character that is just basically just trying to survive in a haunted house or haunted city or whatever. But over the years, the genre kind of got twisted over with the success of horror video games. Some of its most famous franchises has crossed over to the action horror video games, where you pretty much just go and just shoot and kill zombies and undead creatures or whatever. But for a lot of people, unfortunately, for a lot of purists out there, and some people might not like the way that the horror genre went, as far as like going towards the action genre, towards action, because people are more partial with the psychological aspect of just the jump scare and just being vulnerable and just being able to survive at whatever cost. So but I'm gonna go through a few video games, some video games that were influential to the success of that genre. One of the first releases of that game of the genre goes back to 1982, Haunted House for the Atari 2600. Basically, in that game, I don't know if anybody played that. Has anybody ever played Haunted House for the Atari 2600? Yeah. So yeah, you basically play as a pair of eyes that just wanders through this maze, I guess, that's supposedly a haunted house of a guy named Zachary Graves or whatever. But your main goal is to just gather at least 3 urns and then escape the house. And if you get hit 9 times, you lose the game. So, that is acknowledged as one of the earliest memories of the horror genre. And several years later, in 1989, a well-known worldwide famous third-party publisher named, of course, Capcom, they would come up with a game for the Super Famicom, the SNES, basically the Nintendo, the NES in Japan. They would come up with a game called Sweet House. Sweet House is basically not Sweet House, Sweet Home, as a play on the word Sweet Home, Sweet Home. Sweet Home was basically, at first it was basically a movie. It was based off of a movie from Japan, and then they just took that concept and made that into a video game. It was on the Famicom for Japan, and it had some RPG elements to it. The story pretty much is that there was a group of filmmakers and they were trapped in this house, so they're trying to fight their way out. And throughout that game, you get to play through as 5 different characters. And in that game in particular, strategy and good item management is basically one of the key components into surviving into winning a game such as Sweet Home. It just really helped propel Resident Evil as a franchise, and of course it helped the original PlayStation become as a successful console as it was during that point in time. Another game that was released on the PlayStation, Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve was a pretty big deal. One of the main things I remember about that game was the commercial. I don't know if anybody saw the commercial. Well, have anyone played Parasite Eve? Or what did you like about it? And their story takes them on to a southern ocean out in Antarctica, and they're exploring this facility, which of course have crazy monsters, zombies there. And what was unique about this, as player Redfield in one half of the game and Chris Redfield on the other. So I thought that was pretty cool. As different characters throughout the game, which just adds a little bit more to the story. It pretty much gets you more into the story.
I don't know where this even came from. All right, well, I mean, she does, but there's two things that scare me. Dentistry, and I'd much rather have anything than this stuck in my... It's just got a... That's there's a needle. Hold on, oh, that's dangerous a little bit in there. All right, you sure you want to give this away? All righty, all right, so here's what we're gonna do. For the ones who, sitting right here, my audience, right here, right behind. So y'all together? No, neither one. I didn't know, so either one I give it to you, it'd be fair. Let's do a competition. Ever who can yell the loudest, right? 2022 DeepSouth Webb Comi-Con. Ever who can yell that the loudest? I'll go 1 and 2, and you guys vote. Okay? All right, but you got to scream it out loud. All right? We're gonna go right here. 1, 2, 3, go.
2002 Deep South Paranormal Conference. Yeah, baby.
Pretty good, pretty good. Let's try it again. You know, I missed it about 20 years, so I'm giving a hard time. All right, here, let's try it again. No, she can't do it. All right, I know. Here we go. Give her a big round of applause.
Oh, yeah.
Also, right there. All right.
We're going to have some fun with this.
Sorry about that, to walk in front of the speaker there.
Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down throughout the generations. But what if those legends are true? My job is to travel to these destinations, explore them, and figure out the mystery that lies within.
Hey everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out here today. First of all, I think we need to give Stan and the folks that put this event on a round of applause because it takes a lot of work to put these different events on. So thank you guys for putting this on for all of us and all that have come out here today. So my name is Miranda, in case you don't know. I am better known as the Ghost Biker. I travel around the country on my motorcycle to different haunted and historic locations, and I highlight them on my web series. And so when I get the opportunity to be able to speak, I always like to talk about my time behind bars and the evolution of how when I started the paranormal to where I am today, being the co-owner of a haunted jail. So this is going to kind of show how I began and what the series is about. We're getting ready to drop season 5 here in October. And I've also got a couple different EVPs in my new trailer on here as well. So essentially, I'm from Northeast Tennessee in a little town known as Robbins, Scott County, Tennessee to be exact, up deep in the Appalachian Mountains. And I spent a lot of time on that porch right there, which that was my grandma's porch. And so if any of you have watched any of my episodes, you'll see that storytelling and history is something that's extremely important. The paranormal is great, but if you start getting this activity and you don't know the history and the stories behind it, you can't really put those pieces together and find out who you're talking to and who you're trying to establish communication with. My grandmother, she was 95 years old when she passed away, and I was down there on that porch every day from the time I was a child. And so she really instilled the importance of folklore and old wives' tales and a lot of stories of what we call mountain hangs. And so she shared a lot of those with me growing up, and that's really where that love came from. I didn't grow up in a haunted house like a lot of investigators did, but my elementary school was haunted. And so this particular building right here, back in the 1920s, they actually used to use that as a movie theater. You know, in rural Appalachia, we would always use a lot of the same buildings just for different functions. And so they used to actually show movies up on that very top level. And so my librarian growing up, she made sure that every kid that walked through the halls there of Robbins Elementary School knew the story of Dr. Faust, who was killed by Deputy Fowler, as well as Deputy West, who was killed. They were showing a movie there in the school there in 1927, and it was a comedy movie. And so it just so happened the kids got a little bit unruly, and so when Deputy Fowler had come in and was going to arrest some folks there in the area, he started getting mad at the kids. So the doctor ended up standing up and telling, you need to calm down. The deputy didn't like that, so he ended up shooting the doctor in the face. Shot the doctor in the face, shot off 5 shots, and ended up killing Deputy John West as well. He ended up holding the kids as well as the folks that were at that movie theater hostage that night. And when he was actually a little bit drunk on moonshine himself, and so whenever he sobered up, they ended up arresting him, took him to jail. He was in there for about 2 days, and then they ended up sending him to Nashville, and he was electrocuted in the electric chair at roughly about 7 months after it happened. Now, that's pretty quick for justice. And so our librarian made sure that everybody knew about the residual gunshots, the laughter, the residual movie that you could hear playing. She made sure that all of us knew that you could hear some of that stuff as well as see where the bullet holes were there inside of the school. Unfortunately, the school has been torn down, but from a very young age, she made sure that people knew that, and that was again one of the things that really turned me on with the paranormal and really got me into this and taking it from a storytelling side. I've been investigating for right under 15 years. I ended up starting out with a team. My professional background is in marketing, design, and public relations. And my background is also in videography. And, some of the big ones that are known, Lost Furnace, Brushy Mountain, Waverly Hills. We visited a lot of those different locations, spent a lot of time in the commercial locations, and then also did a lot of residentials. I don't really do very many residentials now, but it was a great way to start to learn because as Jereme spoke about, those residential cases are a whole different beast. You essentially become their lifeline and you're going in there and those cases become year-long cases. But it was really cool to be able to go in, try to find and see if we could debunk some of the different things people were experiencing. Because there in East Tennessee, where I'm from, there's a lot of locations that have a lot of Civil War activity and a lot of activity related around some of the native people there on the land. Ghost biker explorations, the way that ended up starting, it essentially began with urban exploration. And so while I was a member of the team, I found that I was traveling a lot for work, going out on my motorcycle a lot, and really going to a lot of different locations that, most people do urbex. And so started taking photography, putting them up on my social media sites, sharing the story behind them. And that's really kind of how it got attention. And I was doing all this while I was going out on my motorcycle, either traveling for work or traveling when we weren't investigating. And so some of these different photos, have some really interesting stories behind them. We were able to share some of these different stories. This church is on the Tennessee Church Trail. And then this is one of my favorites. I just happened to come up on this church one day when I was out riding, and the door was unlocked. And so ended up reaching out to the owners of the location. They let me go in, take some photography, and essentially this church closed down in 1992, and it kind of looked like people had just walked in and just left one Sunday. There was fans laying on the benches, there were hymnals open. It just looked like they had church and didn't come back. And so went in there, spent about 2 hours doing a lot of different photography shoots, and the commissioner there in the town ended up taking those photos. And they're trying to get this church on the National Historic Registry at this point to try to open it up where people can come in because it has a very interesting history from the early 1900s. So the prints, and then that's how I funded my web series because it is self-funded and self-produced. The second picture, and if you haven't watched season 1, episode 1, it's one of my favorites because the story behind this mausoleum, it's crazy because it's white and it's known to bleed when it rains. Now it could just be a deformity of the marble. However, the story behind it was little Nina Cragmiles. She ended up passing away in a carriage accident. She was 7 years old, and so her grandfather was driving the carriage. Well, after she passed away, her dad ended up building St. Luke's Episcopal Church, and he also built that mausoleum in there. And he had it built from the finest Carrara marble. Well, when they put her in, just a few years later, they had a little baby boy who only lived to be about 8 months old. He passed away, and he was in there. 5 years after that, the dad was walking down the street. He tripped, he ended up hitting his head, getting blood poisoning. He ended up in there. And then the wife, she was the only one that survived. 20 years after that, she was going out to her car. She was meeting a friend for dinner. There was cars at this time, and she stepped out in the road and her car was hitting her. And so the story goes that with every person that was put in this mausoleum from that family, more and more bloodstains formed. And so it's really neat to look at it. It really does look like it's bleeding whenever you go and look at this. So to be able to share that history and then also to be able to see if there's any paranormal claims or paranormal activity is something I enjoy doing. I like hitting those smaller, lesser known locations and being able to share that history as well as see if there's any potential paranormal activity. The other building is really cool because it's a variety of guests. So that's every Thursday night on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook channel, Facebook page and YouTube channel. And then of course, handlebars to cell bars. Last year I ended up partnering with my best friend and we took a lease on the historic Scott County Jail. So if you are ever in Northeast Tennessee, Huntsville, Tennessee to be exact, come visit me and my business partner from Soul Sisters Paranormal at the jail. We formed a company called History, Highways, and Haunts. And the reason we named it like that, because history is first and foremost. The highways is, of course, we're both bikers, but also the highway part. And we do motorcycle rides out of there, but it's about the tourism and the travel. And then the haunt, that's third because that's kind of the icing on the cake whenever we were able to go to these locations. So we opened in September of 2021, just celebrated our 1 year anniversary. And so during the day, it's a true crime museum. We've gone in and gathered up all the Scott County true crime. So if you enjoy that, you can spend a couple hours in there. We got car bombings, we got unsolved mysteries, we got moonshiners. We got a lot of true crime in there. And then in the evenings, it's a paranormal research center. We come in, we guided ghost hunts, flashlight tours, and if you're an investigator, you can come and rent it out for the night. The building, it was in operation from 1904 to 2008, and most of the early inmates were moonshiners and ridge runners. The very first story we tell is one that took place right outside the front door of the sheriff who was shot, and he was bringing in a moonshiner, and as he was unlocking the door, he was shot from behind, and the moonshiner that he was bringing in, he actually crouched down in the fetal position, and he was like, the sheriff's been shot. And so, because nobody ran out immediately, they ran off. And so, nobody knows who did it. But he is one of the prevalent spirits that's there. He was a Baptist preacher. He was 6'8", and he ran under the stance that he was going to make Scott County as dry as the Sahara.
Here we go. To win this paranormal brew of your paranormal, first hand up. First hand up. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Someone who can name all the original from the beginning and the new Ghostbusters.
Good.
Oh, I know. It's a tough one. I was waiting to see who could name them all.
Of course, you guys know my name is Blaine Rohan. I was in the Air Force for 26 years. I still work for the Air Force. But first, let's see, I am an empath medium. I can see and hear spirits. I am a double Reiki master in the Cherokee and in the Korean. My grandmother taught me the Cherokee, and a little Korean guy taught me for 3 weeks and ended up telling me I was too strong for him to teach anymore. that I needed to teach him. So I guess that I got lucky doing that. But I am a shaman as well. I'm Cherokee and a little bit of the Lakota. I've been around spirits my whole life. My first experience that I can remember was at 4. We lived across the street from a graveyard, and it was all grown up, holes and graves. It was well not taken care of. But it had some of the best blackberries and plums that you could go pick for free. And I was with my grandmother, and she told me to stop inside the cemetery. She walked across the street back to the house. She wanted to see if I saw what she saw. And as soon as my grandmother told me to look, I turned around. There was a lady in a white dress leaning over a grave crying. And being the good little southern gentleman I was back then, I said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And I'll never forget because she turned and looked at me, tears in her eyes, and smiled, and said, "I'm okay now." And then I watched her just vanish right in front of me. That was my first experience, and I've had, I don't know, every day since then. So it's not a day I go that I don't see spirits somewhere or everywhere. Hospitals were not fun for me. Funeral homes aren't fun for me because I get everything that's ever been in there, every bit of energy and everything. My first investigation I ever did, I was in the Air Force Station, Gordon Air Force Base in California. We were sitting in our day room watching Helter Skelter about the Manson murders. And me being the smart guy I am, I'm like, "Hey, guys, you know we're like 60 miles from there?" So we went real old school. We used a map to figure the way out there. We had a Polaroid camera, a cassette player, cassette recorder, and a military-issued flashlight. We ended up on 10,050 Cielo Drive, which was the address where Sharon Tate lived at. The house was originally owned by Terry Melcher, who was Doris Day's son. He was a record producer. So Charlie knew that house very well because Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys Charlie would bring girls and drugs over there at that location. So that's how he knew that one. He actually showed up after Sharon Tate had moved into the house and was taking photos by her pool with a photographer. And Charlie walked up on the property. And they ran him off. And the whole thing he was mad at because Terry Melcher basically listened to him sing. And Terry just said, "Hey, you're not my cup of tea. Hey, try somewhere else." And it made Manson mad. So he wanted to get everybody back. He thought he was going to be the next king. And I've actually heard his recordings, and I'm sorry, the man could not sing a lick. He was horrible. I feel like Terry Melcher wasted time actually giving him an audition just because it was that bad. But we got there to the location, and at the time we got there, the house had already been torn down. Right after the murders happened, Terry Melcher tore down the house, sold the property, and another gentleman bought both pieces of property and built the house between the two properties, freed up extra land on both sides. Well, we knew if we stayed out on the street, we could get arrested for trespassing. We were there no longer than 10 minutes, and an LA County Sheriff officer came up to us and goes, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And this is before anybody had a word for ghost hunting. He was like, "We're trying to catch a ghost." She goes, "I get off in 10 minutes. You mind if I come back?" I'm like, "Yes, you come back, because you come back means I don't get arrested today." And I got my first 3 EVPs there on that cassette recorder. Of course, when I got, I just asked, I said, who is here? And I got JC came through first. I said, "Jay, what did you do for a living?" And he said, "I cut hair." He was a stylist for the stars. The second one we got through was Abigail Folger, who was heiress to the coffee, Folger Coffee. And I asked her, I said, "What does your family do?" She said, "We do coffee." And the weirdest and scariest one was when Sharon Tate came through. Hers was creepy. And I asked Sharon, I said, "Are you okay now?" And she said, "They stabbed me and they stabbed my baby." And told her basically, says, "We don't care about you, bitch. You're gonna die." So that's the last word Sheriff Tate ever heard. And I got that on audio. It was like, oh my God. It was cool at the same time, but it was freaky. I've gotten many EVPs since then, but those were my first three, so they're special. And I've got real funny EVPs before. I've had spirits laugh at you. I've had spirits, this is one of my favorites. We were in an old sane asylum up in Tuscaloosa called Bryce's, and right next door they were building a convalescent home that was there before. They were going to rebuild it and make it senior apartment. Well, there was a stack of wood sitting against this wall, and thank God I had my recorder room, but I heard this guy playing this thing in my ear. All I heard was, "That ain't gonna hold you, dumbass." then you hear the wood crash, you start cackling. "I told you, dumbass, it ain't gonna hold you." They just just cracked me up.
So Webb Paranormal goes to investigate, and they work around with other teams, and as you know, there's going to be an investigation tomorrow night. Right? Y'all guys know that. I hope y'all take part in that. It's going to be unique. There's going to be multiple teams working that. A unique experience to see how other teams do it, and everybody else is so awesome. But Webb Paranormal investigates one place that I got to go, right? It's super cool. And I will give you a hint. It starts with the letter, and if you know what I'm about to say, there's initials, and I'm about to say them. And the first person to raise their hands who can tell me what it is wins. Here we go. The initials are PJ. Boom. Oh, you're part of Webb Paranormal. Oh, you don't get to join. You can't.
And guys, out here, Mineral City Coffee Company from Dothan, very cool. And then we have a food truck, Woodrow's Bar and Grill, chillin' and grillin'. Can't get much better than that. Very, very cool. And then we got the Brain Busters escape rooms, Alcatraz prison, the most haunted place in America. Don't want to get stuck there.
The former property and what that property was all about.
Okay, the backstory on this is very interesting. Okay, this better. The backstory on this is very interesting. We actually got a statement from the client that they wrote out and gave to us when they were looking for rocks in the backyard. Was when they found this. They actually saw a piece of wood in the ground, and he tried to pull it up, it wouldn't pull up. And they dug it up and they found that box, and they opened it. Now he reported when he busted the seal on the box, they actually heard a growl. And after that's when they started having paranormal activity in their homes. And then subsequently they contacted us and asked us to come out and see what we could do to help them. We went out, we dealt with what was the issues in the home, and we went on, but we did research the doll. The property was a plantation. It goes clear back into the 1800s. That was a Maxwell plantation. And the doctor owned it, and he owns, had slaves. And the way the story goes was he actually had impregnated a young slave girl. And to cover this up, the stories that are in the local area says that he went and led her into the woods to the train tracks and pushed her in front of an oncoming train, which definitely would take care of the body and everything. After that, they said the mother of this young girl was looking for her daughter and wandered the woods for a long time. Now we think this is connected to the doll because we think the spells was directed toward the Maxwell family.
I do want to add that during our investigation, the claims were they heard a small child in the house, giggling, laughing. It kind of coincides with the story that you just told us. All the evidence that we captured at that investigation was the little girl's voice saying "mama" or laughing, giggling the whole time. And we did get that evidence. After we left the investigation, our client states that the activity did cease, but not completely stop.
No, yeah, he actually said that they actually still see the little girl, but they're not hearing the noises in the the attic. They're not having the objects moved after we removed the objects in the home. Destiny named the dog Beta because we were able to connect several different types of magic to this.
That's not why I named the Beta. That story goes is we actually filmed for a documentary, and one of the people who was filming with us named the magic that was associated with the box. I had already named the dog. And she goes on to say the Bavarian magic. And I'm like, that is crazy because I named the dog Beta, just a name that came out of the blue. Having possession of this item has really been crazy for us. We have all kinds of pictures and videos of things that's been going on in and around our home. During the time that we found the box, our team was, Michael and I were actually doing a demonology class led by Jereme Leonard. And it was like, Exhibition walked off. We were right in the middle of taking his demonology class, which it was perfect timing for us finding this because we were able to bring it on into the class and let the class help us determine what this was and how to take care of the problem. So there's symbols on the box, on the top, and if you stop by our table and look at it, you're welcome to. On the bone that was inside the box are Mr. Maxwell's initials. So we know that the curse of the box was associated to him. The doll is quite unique because if you get close enough, she has 3 iron nails through her chest. That makes it creepy right there. I don't even have to say anything else. Since bringing her to our house, we have actually had to store her on hallowed ground, a safe place, a place holy. And so she is stored into a church, and that's where she's kept until we bring her out for people to be able to look at her and see what her story is and what she's all about. Things that happen in our house, maybe it's coincidental, maybe it's not. We have captured apparitions with our DVR system outside of our home. I have some pictures of that too. I wish that we had this going so you could actually see the videos and the picture. And in a few months, we're going to be able to actually put some video and a story on our Facebook page so that you can see these things. We brought her out around in January and started to bring her back in our home. As soon as we started doing that, I began to get sick. It was like one whole month blood pressure issues. Another whole month I had the flu. A whole other month I had COVID, and it was thing after thing after thing. And my whole team kept telling me, hey, you need to get that box out of your house. Let's get the box out of your house. But fearless Destiny insisted, hey, that box is fine where it's at. But you know what? As soon as we took the box out of our home, it's like everything started getting better. I started feeling better. Everything just felt brighter and felt better in our home. So we do store that away from our house.
Now, the paranormal activity the clients were having seems to, a lot of it had moved over with us when we took possession of the dog.
Absolutely, like the little girl. Now they reported seeing an apparition of a little girl, about 4 foot tall. We have witnessed that in our home. A lot of things that they went through in their home pertaining to paranormal activity has happened in our home and is still happening today. Just the other night, Michael and I were laying in bed and we're watching something on TV, and we hear something running up in our attic. And then we hear a little girl's voice, we hear other things, and then when I'm watching back on the video, I hear a voice say, get out of here. And like, hey, this is my house. I'm not going anywhere. But things like this are normal. The church where we keep the doll stored also is currently having paranormal activity, and we don't know how much longer they're going to allow us to keep the box in there, because the church does know that the box is there now. Things that happen in the church there is they hear a little girl giggling and laughing. The church is live streamed. And we went back to be sure what we heard, and sure enough, we go to the church's live stream at that same time that voice was heard, and we can hear the little girl giggling. Several people in our church have witnessed this. It feels like the whole church got stuck.
What's up, guys? I'm here with the Alabama Ghostbusters. Good to see you guys ready for some action here.
We are always ready for action.
Oh man, you guys have awesome gadgets, and then even the original game from the 80s.
Correct.
And you used to host them back in the day. That is really cool. Could you just give us a little rundown of like how a night would go?
How a night would go? Well, you gotta have your snacks, gotta have your drinks, you gotta have your friends, do your dice, and you just play. It's a really simple game. It's built around just rolling regular D6s, and it's kind of a comedy-driven game, although I usually play it a little more serious, let the players add comedy. And it's just situational. It's like, oh, you walk into a room, there's a green ghost in the corner, what do you do? Of course, the answer is usually, I shoot it.
Yeah, I love that. Were you guys a bigger fan of the movies or the cartoon series?
I definitely started off with the cartoon series, but I love it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so loaded that like the movies, of course, spawned the cartoon. Then the cartoon took on a whole life of its own with brand new lore and new equipment. It's honestly almost 50-50 to me.
You're happy both of them exist though, because it just expands. It gives more you guys to work with, right? Heck yeah.
It's great. The stories are great. They wrote the original syndicated version of the series. Every episode could be its own sequel to the original movie. So, like, they definitely put time and care into it, and it shows.
That's amazing. I'm a big Easter egg guy, so whenever, you know, the new movies can maybe drop some old facts from like a lost episode, I love that. And when you can really connect the dots, that's what it's about.
The IDW recently finished their publishing run doing Ghostbuster comics, and for the longest time their comics, the artists would draw in Easter eggs in every book near about, like tons of panels, like, oh, here's an old piece of equipment from this episode of the cartoon, oh, here's a thing from the movie over here, just like hidden within panels. Just it's every time you're just looking at everything, you're gonna miss half a dozen things. You go online and see what everybody else has found.
Yup, the rewatch factor is strong.
We had just a random ghost that was a real Ghostbusters toy. They just decided to bring to life for a second.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, like I lost my mind. I was like, where's the bug? I go, oh,
It's legendary. All right, while we're on the topic of cinema, I know you've been in front of the screen before and behind the screen. You've worked on films, on TV shows. Could you open us up to what you've worked on?
I've worked on a film called Christmas Carol. I was props and extra for that. I worked on a film called Worth Fighting For. I was once again props and extras. Built an entire boxing ring for that. It was really awesome. I did props for Demon Squad, I believe was the final title. It went through a few iterations of titles. It was recently featured on Mystery Science Theater. Also, I managed to be an extra in an episode of Lovecraft Country. So I quite enjoyed that.
That is so legendary, and me and you were joking about our 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. We didn't need all 7 steps, so more power to us.
Just a couple and we were there.
Yup. Well, thanks for spreading the awesome just vibes here at the table. You guys have some gadgets, potions, concoctions, and bright lights, man. Thank you so much for the vibes. An awesome interview. Thank you, guys. I'm here with the Old Alchemy Soap Company. What's up, guys? This is the best smelling corner over here. Yes. Very cool. And you guys have natural ingredients, but you guys also have some magical vibes to the soap as well. Could you kind of explain the whole feeling and vibe behind your guys' product?
Well, as far as the magical soaps, I do those. So I'm a witch. I am not very, I'm not quiet about it. You know, everybody knows, like, oh, that's Ashley the Witch. You know, it's just kind of a thing. And I get a lot of requests in my inbox across all the various social media, like, hey, do a spell for me, do a spell for me, do a spell for me. So I just made the soap into a spell, really. My most popular on the internet, everybody's like, can you do a love spell for me? So, have a love potion soap.
Love it.
And then there's things like Asphodel, which is a curse-breaking soap. And then there's Luna Falls, which is a general cleansing, get all the negative gunk off of you. And then there's Fortuna for good luck. And then there's Samhain Bonfire, which is protection and my personal favorite.
Very cool, very cool. And you also perform live readings and just live guidance in all directions.
Yeah. My mom taught me how to read tarot when I was like 16 years old, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. Have you ever read for anybody famous, or have you ever made contact with anybody from the other side?
I've always seen ghosts. As far as famous people, not really like famous around here, but not like famous in the sense of the world. But I've always seen ghosts. Like, that's just me.
Very cool. And I see you have a crystal ball here.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
She won't let me play with it.
What's some guidance or things you've seen with that?
I am just learning this. Actually, it was a Christmas present from our partner Blake.
Yeah.
And I am just learning how to do it. I'm not proficient with it yet, so I don't do it publicly just yet.
So I'll see you next year, and we'll see what's up.
Yes,
Yeah, I like that. Thank you so much, and keep spreading the positivity around.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. What's up, guys? We're here with the Nerdverse store. What's up, brother? Me and you are having a great talk about all the wild celebrities that you met and some of the cool collections that you put together. You've gotten authentic autographs, and do you have any movie used props or anything that's been on screen?
I wish, yeah.
That'd be super cool.
The closest I have is like some replicas, stuff like that. Like Evil Dead, I have the Kandarian dagger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they did that. But some of that stuff is so expensive, though. You know,
Right.
It's kind of out of my price range.
What started your collection? Were you just a kid, or was this more a business thing for you?
I started really young, like 5, 6. I was in baseball cards, and then I went to coins, and then it went to comics, and then it grew into this. Yeah,
That's yeah, it's amazing because I think it's so much closer to it's so much cooler to get closer to the culture, and if you can hold it in your hand or have a signature from the cast of Lord of the Rings, like you're just closer to Middle Earth, you know. And I feel like we're an important middle ground to all of this. Like, it's cool souvenirs and figurines, but it actually represents something.
Yeah. It's really fun to meet all the celebrities too.
Really?
Like all the conventions, and you're just talking to them for like 5 minutes, you know, or whatever.
Heck yeah, and if you know, if they look as good as Shannon Elizabeth, Nadia, then we can rock with that, you know. Is that Tron? That's
that's an OG Tron from back in the day.
That's amazing. My last name's Flynn, so you know.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, Amanda Seyfried as a redhead. You don't see that much often.
That was from the movie that shall not be named.
Nicola Peltz. She's from Bates Motel.
Yeah. And Transformers. I think Transformers.
Yeah, one of the later ones. Yep.
Christiana Loken.
Yeah. That is awesome.
I wish I could have gotten Arnold. That would have been awesome.
That would be really cool. Yeah. I love this too, Bill and Ted. Oh my gosh.
Summer Glau. She is so sweet. Like I've seen her a couple times, and she's just the sweetest person.
It's so cool and then when you see them in the movies and the TV shows, you know them as a person, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the Who's the coolest horror person you've met?
Probably Doug Bradley from Hellraiser.
Wow.
Yeah, he was kind of. He had a way, you know. I mean, some people are very like outgoing, some people are reserved, some people are kind of cool. But he just, if you engaged him, you know, he would tell you stories.
Wow.
So he wrote a book about Hellraiser, so I got him to sign that, you know.
Are you excited for the new Hellraiser movie coming out? some people
I'm a
are
horror fan.
Some people are a little iffy about it, but I think it's sticking true to like where it came from, the original roots. So I am pumped, man. It's trippy. Anything that can expand your mind, I'm into.
Yep, exactly.
Well, thanks so much, man, and thank you for holding it down too. This is where my safekeeping is, in this corner. So looking forward to the future, brother. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
Second one, Belmont's Revenge. It follows the story of Christopher Belmont. He's just like the first one, but in this one in particular, Dracula kidnaps his son, Solio, I believe. Yes, he steals, he kidnaps his son, uses him to resurrect his castle, and then he goes on again on another journey, another quest to take down Dracula and save his son. But in this game, they do have sub-weapons, but they have holy water and axes in the first one, not the first one, in the American version, but in the Japanese version, instead of the axe, they have the crosses. So in the third one, Castlevania Legends, which was released later on, like in the late '90s, in 1997, up until like many years later, it was considered canon, but then they made it non-canonical. It features Sophia Belmont, which non-canonally, she was one of the first vampire hunters to take on Dracula.
I had my first paranormal experience, and with my mother and grandmother watching every move, it was a big deal for me because I finally felt like I was like them. Then the next one would be when all of a sudden now I'm a mother and my daughter is like them. I was 6, my daughter was still crawling. And I had $12 to my name, and I put it in my van, and I shot down the road to my mom. She called my grandma, and they're like, "Yay, she's like us." And I'm like, "No, that just scared the crap out of me. That's my baby." Who is passing her pacifier to her? Who is she reaching up to grab her? You know, why can't I see it? I can see these things. It was scary, but those are big moments in my life. But the biggest is called Bloody Thursday. It's in the book that we had over there, and it will explain very clearly why I'm Mary Master.
Love potion number 9, reapply annually.
I was living in a haunted house, and in this situation, living in a very, very severely haunted, very violent home. What I was experiencing was more annoying to him. But I was scared. I had a baby. When you got a baby in your arms, what do you do to an enemy you can't see? Turns out we were able to kind of turn a negative into a positive. And I don't want to tell the whole story, but there are murders involved, but there's also victory. So I'd love for you to read the story. It is on Amazon. It's on Books and Legends, so that's BAM. Or Barnes & Noble and Goodreads. So if you have Kindle, you can get it unlimited, you can get it for free. All right, are you going to do more family cases, Matt?
So one of the interesting things that we've started doing is we've taken the cases that Lee's grandmother and her mother and even her great-grandmother, the cases they did, and with the what we would call today primitive tools that they use, and see if we can do those same cases. Now, sometimes, without saying ages, anywhere from 70 to 20 years later.
Mama Jenny's still with us in the flesh.
And see how those cases match up to the cases and the evidence that they got, and see how our evidence matches up with this new technology.
So, Grandma Gigi and Mama Jenny investigated before with things like candles in jars and talcum powder and pendulums and compasses and things like that, mostly just going on their own feeling. And they went into battle for people that lived in houses. They weren't out gallivanting. And so they went in, 2 ladies, Mama Jenny and then her mother, who was actually crippled from polio. And they went in to take care of children and to see spirits. So we investigated behind them,
compared the history we discovered with our methodology and their results. So that's what that book is about. Thank you, Jess Elliott, for helping me tell the story.
That's awesome.
Okay,
Excellent.
hit the button.
Lee, I'm jealous. I'm not going to do it with you.
Okay. What's the name? That's a hard piece. I didn't phrase that good. What does family spirit activities require from our leaders, which are Matthew and I? So has it been hard having psychic children?
So this is a big one, all right? This is a big deal to me, having psychic children, growing up with psychic abilities and being told as I was growing up, no, that's not, you just have imaginary friends, or you don't really see what you're seeing, or no, there's no reason to dislike coming to this place or to really like being in a place. So I'm gonna do a little exercise with you guys and we'll get to this, but how many people by show of hands feel like they have psychic abilities in this building? Anybody in the building? If you feel like you have psychic abilities. Or have had psychic moments.
Psychic abilities, but has something.
There's a difference between a psychic moment and psychic ability.
There is.
Okay, so let me rephrase that.
Children, they can hear crying across the town, right? That's something that happens.
I'll rephrase this. We're going to get to a point, but I'm going to pull y'all all into this, right? Okay, so raise your hand if you feel like you've had psychic abilities, right? Psychic abilities, okay? So now, of the people that raised your hand, if you don't feel like doing it, you don't have to. But if you're over 30, raise your hand. All right. So this is a whole. So this is a whole lot of stuff that we had to deal with. All the people that are kind of over 30. When we were growing up, there were no shows that were out there. There were no books out there. There was very little research out there for us to fall back on, especially if you happen to live in the Bible Belt buckle of the South. I lived in South Carolina at the time in the buckle, and I think maybe the side strap might be Alabama. I don't know. So a little caveat on what Jereme said earlier. Everybody used to think that if there was something going on, it was demonic. Right? I'm going to tell you right now, 99.9% of the times that something is happening, it is a misinterpretation. It is not demonic. A lot of times it's coming from yourself. All right? A lot of times it's something that's trying to guide you. Okay, any hunters in the room? This is going to get it better. Hunters? Any hunters? All right? Any soldiers? Any soldiers in the room? Okay. So, if you, how many, close enough, all right. So, how many times have you been in a situation, hunting, in a situation as a soldier, where you either had a kill that was about to happen, now as a hunter, or a possible life-threatening situation that was about to happen as a soldier, and you got a little flash of light, a little feeling inside, a little hint that something was going down. You saw somebody and said, this person is acting completely different than what I feel. Nobody else sees it, but I got it. Or you got that little flash of light and you turn and all of a sudden this 20-point buck comes walking out of your dreams, right? So there's a few people that can relate to that, right? So, living in this same Bible Belt, right, where we have all these deer that run around, how many times have you had that feeling while you were driving down the road of, ooh, I better slow down, and come around the corner and a deer jumps out in front of you, right? Right? Or unfortunately, maybe somebody pulls out in front of you that's playing on their cell phone. That's happened a few times, right? So how many times have you been in a situation that might have been life-threatening that we can see as soldiers, but you can see as everyday people that are walking around, driving down the road where you felt something was going to happen and you stopped.
I had a dream one time.
Right?
I had a dream one time that there was a man walking down the road and he had on black pants and right down the side, and he was dancing like this, going down the road, and then all of a sudden there was a black cow, and then he started crossing the road. I didn't see him get it, and I couldn't get the neighbor across the street to open the door, and he died in my arms. And I woke up going, huh? What is that? Man would strike down here. What is that? Cow? You know, the next day, I'm going to work. Fog, just like what in my head playing was fog. And I got to that spot, and I was like, oh crap, this is it. I put my brake on. There's a man in black jogging pants with a stripe down his leg, and I saw him, and I slammed on brakes, and a black cow came out in front of me in the fog. I called him, I was hysterical. It was exactly my dream. Why did I have it? It was a premonition, and it's because I had something else to do. The Great Spirit said, Lee, you've got more work to do. We're not going to let a black cow walking in the fog stop it. It's because I was where I needed to be. It woke up. I would type just that in here. Witness episode 3.
Season 3, episode 16.
You can actually watch it on Discovery Plus.
Yeah, Discovery Plus, okay.
You can watch it for free now.
Yeah, and Peacock.
Peacock
That's
has
it.
it.
You put it in the phone, Peacock is free.
Tubi has it. And there's like 4 or 5 of them.
Okay. Baby, I want to know this in front of all these people. How?
I didn't see this slide before she made it.
If you just want to pass, go off. Okay, so how do you feel? How do you feel married into a family of scientists?
How does one answer that question?
Well, did you
Very carefully, right?
Did you have a laundry problem, or did you like it? Or were you like, oh my
So,
God?
you know, there's certain things, you know, there's matches that are made. I know if you've had that perfect connection with somebody, you understand. You know, if you've had that moment where you met somebody and you were like, I just met you, but I feel like I've known you my whole life, right? So that's kind of the way it was with this lady. And
He comes from a psychic family, and his father was a herpetologist and mammologist, and wrestled alligators in movies, married and had that. When he was born, he rolled over, and when he was able to start walking, he came into our room, crying, wanted me to pull him up off the bed. He said, Mommy, I'm sorry, it's my fault. This is exactly what happened. Mommy, I'm sorry, it's my fault. Baby, what's the matter? It's my fault, Mommy. You had a baby in your belly, and I told God I wanted to come to you, and that baby went away, and I came, and it's my fault. I'm sorry. And I looked over at Matt, and I'm like, what? What just happened? I had a miscarriage before we had Elijah. I never told him that. Why would I tell him Tommy or something like that? Where did he get that from? And I said, he said, I told God I wanted you and your daddy to be my mom and dad because we knew you would understand.
Wow.
And I'm going, what have I done? And Matt's going, oh my God, what are we in for? And I'm like, we got to get the witness. And so I run down the hall and grab her mom, bring her in, and he's telling her the same thing. A couple of days later, he's talking to Joshua. Who's Joshua? Why don't you look at him, Mom? His face is gone. He got shot. He was a soldier with me. 3.
The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork, baby. The dome. I am in Graceville, along Route 2, looking for the famous spook lights. Don't know if they're orbs, extraterrestrials, or spirits, but you could definitely feel the vibe out here. Might be connected to Sasquatch with all the wooded area. But we're gonna wait out here for a shooting star or a spook light.